Welcome to the joint local, state, and federal town hall meeting for the Magna earthquake. We'll be hearing from state and local officials and federal individual assistance program experts about the individual assistance program, the earthquake recovery program following the Magna earthquake on March 17th. Tonight, we're going to be first hearing from Jenna Wilkinson, the State Division of Emergency Management Individual Assistance Officer. She will be followed by Keith Bevin, the Planning Section Chief from Salt Lake County Emergency Management. Chad Monroe, the Emergency Manager from Davis County, will then provide a few comments. He will be followed by Victor Lopez, the Household Program Specialist for FEMA. Elizabeth Vargas, the Public Information Officer from the Small Business Administration, will follow, and we will conclude with Joan Houston, the Mitigation Specialist, also from FEMA. Then we'll be able to start taking your questions. You can enter your questions in the chat window on our YouTube channel at YouTube/Utah Emergency. So please join us there and type in your comments and questions, and those will be provided to us. We'll try to answer those throughout the evening. Depending on the amount of questions and time available, we will plan to end by 6:55, after which this town hall will be followed by a Spanish language town hall providing the same information in Spanish. So we are going to begin now by hearing from Jenna Wilkinson, again, the Individual Assistance Officer from the State Division of Emergency Management. So we'll pull up Jenna on the camera and microphone, and you can go ahead, Jenna.
Thank you, Wade. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the earthquake and the timeline of having FEMA and assistance arrive in the state, and a little bit about the programs that are here and the roles that the state, local, and federal partners play. So with the earthquake happened on March 18th of this year. COVID hit Utah first week of March, and that second week is when things really shut down. So it was fortunate in that a lot of the buildings that were damaged were closed, schools were closed, and businesses were closed. And so we really avoided a lot of injuries and other things that could have been more serious. But following an event, in order to request a federal level declaration, the states have 30 days to do a damage assessment to see what the damages are, and then to request federal assistance come in if damages reach a certain threshold. And because of COVID restrictions and other things that were going on, and it being our first major earthquake in a long time, and some of the nuances that go into reviewing and assessing earthquake damage, the state requested a 30-day extension for that. And so we had 60 days to collect damages from residents and from businesses, from public infrastructure, to put together a request to send up for a presidential declaration. We completed that in May and then submitted it up to the president's office through FEMA headquarters for a presidential declaration so that we could bring in assistance such as the individual assistance housing programs and other things. The declaration was approved on July 9th, and the incident period, which is the period of time that we can count or claim the damages, was March 18th through April 17th. And that was due to some of the larger aftershocks that followed that provided some additional damage to structures. 2 counties that were found to have enough damages reported to be eligible for the programs were Salt Lake and Davis counties. And the deadline, which is 60 days from the date of the declaration for people to apply for assistance through FEMA, is September 8th. And so that deadline is coming up in just a few weeks. So just be aware of that as we go forward and people discuss the programs with you. So some of the programs that FEMA was able to provide assistance with following the declaration, there are 2 categories. First is community service programs. One of those was disaster unemployment assistance. It was available through Workforce Services through August 17th. Because COVID had closed a lot of things down, we didn't really see or foresee that there would be a lot of people eligible for that because there was already a lot of assistance coming through the COVID program. And then another service is disaster legal services. That program is still open. It's provided in a partnership with Utah Legal Services and the American Bar Association's Young Lawyers Division. And there is a phone number that can be called for that. We can provide that information in the chat and in a lot of the handouts and other things we have. The other program under community services is crisis counseling. That program is being provided through a large grant that we got through the COVID declaration. And the Utah Department of Human Services has created a program called the Utah Strong Recovery Project. Counselors are available through that daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. via phone or text or by email. And so any residents experiencing any stress or any issues or mental health services that you need, you can contact them anytime for any mental health effects you may be having from the earthquake or from COVID. The other program, and the one that I think we're probably going to speaking about the most tonight, is the Individuals and Households program. And that is a program through FEMA that provides disaster housing assistance and other needs assistance. And that's available to residents in Salt Lake and Davis counties who experienced damage to their homes or businesses due to the earthquake. You can register online for that or by phone. And then also in partnership with the Housing Assistance and Other Needs, the Small Business Administration provides low interest disaster loans to residents and businesses impacted by the earthquake as well. And we have representatives from these programs to speak in more detail about this a little bit later on. And I just want to give a brief overview about the roles that the local governments, the state and federal partners play in bringing the individual assistance programs through FEMA into the state. So local jurisdictions in the state will work together after a disaster, so in this case, after the earthquake, to collect damage information, to put together a list of needs, and to submit an application to FEMA for the programs to come into the state if it's felt that federal assistance is needed. They also help with the public information and sharing information about registering for those programs once they arrive. The state and federal partners, so FEMA and SBA, work together after damage assessments have been completed to verify that the damages are accurate and meet the thresholds, and then submit that request up to FEMA headquarters in the president's office. And then once the declaration is approved, FEMA, SBA, and the state work together to bring those programs to residents. And then on the federal side, FEMA administers the Individual Assistance, Individuals and Households program, and the SBA administers the disaster loan programs. So once those programs are activated, residents work directly with those federal programs to apply for and receive that assistance. So once those programs are activated, residents need to work with those helplines and the online websites for those applications. Unfortunately, as much as we would love to, state representatives, local representatives, and federal partner staff who are not working on those programs can't access or share information about applications because it contains personal information. So that is all I have, is a little bit of an overview of the incident timeline, the programs that are here, and the roles that we all play. So I will hand it back to Wade to move on to some of our local and federal partners who will share more with you.
Before you go, Jenna, just really quickly, this, I think, I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but this is historic in a couple of different ways, and in the fact that our metropolitan area was impacted by a large earthquake like that, but this is our very first individual assistance disaster declaration. Is that correct?
Yes, so this is the first individual assistance declaration and individual assistance activation of programs that we've had here in the state of Utah. The state did receive some individual assistance funding to help with Hurricane Katrina residents who had been relocated to the state after Hurricane Katrina happened, but this is the first time Utah has received it directly for their residents. So it's a new program for us, and it's a new program for our residents to become familiar with. And it's also unique in that I believe we were one of the first states to have a disaster within a disaster, with it happening the second week that COVID shutdowns had happened. So that was another unique and interesting challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Well, thank you for all that information, Jenna. And you mentioned some of the links and the The phone numbers and those types of things are available at the top of the YouTube page. So those are available on the YouTube channel right now, YouTube/Utah Emergency. And then, Jenna, you mentioned that the two counties that are eligible are Salt Lake and Davis County. So we're going to go next to Salt Lake County's Keith Bevin. He's joining us by phone. So we'll hear Keith again, the planning section for Salt Lake County Emergency Management. Go ahead, Keith.
Thank you. Again, Keith Bevin with Salt Lake County Emergency Management, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this town hall meeting. It's been a real interesting process for all of us. The county's role through the earthquake response and this recovery process has been in support of the 1.2 million people that live in our 16 cities, 5 metro townships, 2 towns, and our unincorporated county. Salt Lake County Emergency Management began supporting our residents immediately after the initial earthquake with life safety and initial damage assessments as a priority. As the day progressed, a link to begin gathering individual and business damage assessments was created and distributed to the cities and townships within the valley. This ultimately was distributed to all residents and business owners. Salt Lake County continues to support all cities with the individual assistance program as needed and looks forward to the ongoing effort to support our communities. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Keith. And again, Salt Lake County had suffered the most damage, I think, from the earthquake. So I think there's a lot of hopes there that you'll get a lot of people to register for the individual assistance program, right?
We hope so, yes.
Right, okay. All right, thank you, Keith.
Wade?
Yes.
This is Jenna. I just had a thought as Keith was talking. I think one thing we definitely want to clarify with the public is that when they filled out those damage assessment forms, that was not a registration with FEMA. That was the preliminary damage assessment that I discussed earlier in order to get FEMA to come. And so we really want residents to know that if they filled those out, they still need to call and register with FEMA as well.
Absolutely, Jenna. It's a good clarification. Let's make sure that we reiterate that a few times throughout the hour. Okay, thank you, Jenna, and thank you, Keith, for those remarks as well. Chad Monroe, the emergency manager from Davis County, is also joining us. Where Chad, your county qualified for this as well because of the damage.
We did, yes, thank you. It's nice to be with you tonight. Thought I'd just take a second to explain kind of how we did it in Davis County. We worked with each of our 15 cities. So you as a resident, if you reported damage to your cities or you reported them directly to my office at the county level, we took those and sent them up to the state for the initial assessments, which Janet just talked about, right? For the damage assessments for you. After that was approved in our county, we reached out to each of you. We didn't have the numbers that Salt Lake County does, but we reached out to each of you and either left you a message or sent you an email or talked to you directly and referred you to the website so that you could actually apply and register there or to the phone number. So that's how we kind of did it and have been doing it in Davis County. There you have it. Back to you, Wade.
All right, thank you very much, Chad. Appreciate that report there. Again, a reminder to everybody viewing right now, please feel free to enter questions and comments into the chat window on the YouTube channel, and we will get to those questions and comments in just a few more minutes. We will next hear from Victor Lopez, a household program specialist from FEMA. And Victor, you can tell us, you've probably done this before, I imagine.
Yes. So hi, my name is Victor Lopez, and I am from the Individual and Household Program with FEMA. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency that helps disaster survivors recover from a major disaster. The FEMA Individual and Household Program may provide assistance to individuals and families that have been impacted by the Magna earthquake and the aftershocks, such as home repair assistance and rental assistance. Also, FEMA may help replace personal property that has been lost during this disaster. We encourage everyone to fill out an application with FEMA and register for assistance. And they may do so through the disasterassistance.gov. They can create an account and register online. And they can also call the registration intake. The number is 1-800-621-3362. 1-800 621-3362. Like I said before, we encourage everyone to register and apply for assistance. Once you have completed this registration and the process, you will receive an ID number. That will be the number that will identify your case with FEMA. And you will also receive some assistance referrals. You may receive a call from an inspector to discuss the damages that you had to your property. And you will be contacted by a FEMA case review specialist that will discuss the application with you. Each time that a FEMA representative contacts you or you contact FEMA, you will use your ID registration to identify yourself, and they will request for identity verification. So you will have to verify your identity once you are contacted by one of their FEMA reps. Also, FEMA cannot duplicate benefits. So it's very important that you contact your insurance company to verify what type of insurance do you have. If you have insurance, for example, earthquake insurance that may cover your damages, then you will have to file a claim with them. And later you will have to submit the denial or settlement letter to FEMA. Whatever decision you may receive from FEMA, it's appealable. So you can appeal whatever decision FEMA has made in your case. For later on, we'll be answering questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask us anything you would like to know. Thank you.
All right, Victor, thank you very much for that great explanation. And we do have questions starting to come in, but we will allow Elizabeth, the Public Information Officer from the Small Business Administration, to make a few remarks, followed by Joan Houston, Mitigation Specialist from FEMA, and then we'll start answering those questions. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you, Wade. My name is Elizabeth Vargas. I'm a Public Information Officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance. SBA offers low-interest federal disaster loans to Utah businesses and residents affected by the earthquake and the aftershocks that happened March 18 through April 17. The declaration covers Davis and Salt Lake counties. Businesses of all sizes and private nonprofit organizations may borrow up to $2 million to repair or replace damaged or destroyed real estate, equipment, inventory, or other business assets that the business may lost. SBA also offers economic injury disaster loans to help businesses and nonprofit organizations meet working capital needs caused by the disaster. Business low interest rates may be as low as 3.75% and 2.75% for nonprofit organizations. The term may be up to 30 years, so your payments are low. Homeowners may borrow up to $200,000 to repair or replace damaged or destroyed real estate. This damage may include foundation issues and destroyed chimneys. I would like to point out that it's very important for homeowners to know that there may be foundation damages to their home, not evident from eyesight, and that is a good reason to apply for an SBA loan, because that way, if you find out later after our deadline has passed, you may still request assistance from SBA. So don't hesitate to request or to apply for the loan, even if you are not sure you're going to need it, or even if you don't know how much you're going to need. Following earthquakes, these are big issues. I was in Alaska almost a couple of years ago, and that happened to a lot of people. They didn't think they had any damages, and once the snow melted, they found out they did. So don't hesitate to request or apply for the loan, and you are not obligated to take it. Or even you may take less money if you don't need as much. And homeowners and renters also are eligible for up to $40,000 to repair or replace damaged or destroyed personal property. This may include furniture, even your car. And the interest rate for homeowners and renters may be as low as 1.563%. and the term again may be as up to 30 years. If your loan application is approved, you may also be eligible for additional funds to cover the cost of improvements that will protect your property against future damage. These improvements include retaining walls, seawalls, sump pumps, etc. This mitigation loan money will be in addition to the amount of the approved loan, but may not exceed 20% of the total amount of the physical damage to your property. The physical damage deadline to apply is September 8th, so you still have a few weeks, but don't wait. And for the economic injury, it's April 9th of next year. To be considered for all forms of disaster assistance, survivors must first contact the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as my colleague said, at www.disasterassistance.gov. You will have this information in our YouTube. And also, applicants may apply online or receive additional disaster assistance information and download the SBA application at disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. Also, we have a customer service center that is 916-735-1500. So we're going to be here for any questions. Let us know. Thank you.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that. All right, Joan, we're going to wrap it up with you and then we'll start answering questions. So go ahead, Joan.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wade. My name is Joan Houston and I am a FEMA mitigation specialist. I'm going to talk a little bit about earthquake damage and measures you can take to make your home and family safer in the next earthquake. Earthquake damage to a home can look like regular wear and tear, but it may be an indicator of more serious damage and should be inspected by a licensed professional. In fact, it can be hidden behind drywall or other finishes. This can allow it to go unnoticed because it's not obvious or may be located in rarely used rooms or spaces. A mitigation specialist can help you spot earthquake damage by following some simple steps, such as inspecting the entire outside of the structure for obvious movement of the foundation, inspecting crawl spaces, windows or doors that may not open or close properly since the quake, and water heater connections, just to name a few. If you didn't have any obvious damage, it doesn't mean you won't next time. The location of the earthquake, the intensity, soils, and age of construction are all factors that can affect how well your property survives the next earthquake or other disaster event. In fact, the Wasatch Fault poses one of the most catastrophic natural threat scenarios in the United States. The Wasatch Front region has a significant chance of an earthquake 11 times bigger than the Magna earthquake occurring at any time. We urge you to take mitigation measures now to ensure your safety in the future. Buy earthquake insurance and secure all non-structural hazards such as water heaters, bookshelves, and heavy furniture. Not only can these items harm you in an earthquake, they can block your exit to safety. There is no such thing as earthquake proof. Even buildings designed to the latest building codes can be damaged. However, any building can be strengthened to perform better in an earthquake. Contact a mitigation specialist for more information about making your home and family safer before, during, and after an earthquake. Our email is FEMA-R8-HMHelp@FEMA.DHS.gov. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Joan. That's a lot of good advice right there for being ready for the next one. Okay. All right. We're going to start taking some questions now. This first question, I think Victor probably may go to you if you want to bring your mic and camera back up again. Mike asks, how do they know if they have enough damage to be eligible for help and what kinds of help? So Victor, how does a person know if they have enough damage? Are there some thresholds? Is there minimum or maximum or what? How do they know that? Or should they just go ahead and apply if they think they have any damage?
Yes, they should, after the disaster, after the earthquake, they should take a look around the property and inspect the property to see if they have any damages that they have not seen before, you know, for example, like cracks, big cracks, foundation damage, roof damage, windows, walls, anything that will make their home unsafe to live in. Uh, whatever damages they see, whatever damages they may have, we just encourage them to call FEMA and make a registration. Then they will, you know, based on the information that they provide, the system will automatically determine if they are going to be receiving an inspection. And from there, we will go and process.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Jana, I'm wondering, Jana, if you're there, if you have anything you wanted to add to this as well, as far as how do you know if there's any other damage or eligibility, I guess. Is there anything you would like to add, Jana?
Yeah, I would say if you suspect that you have damage, I would contact and register with FEMA. They have a virtual inspection process they're currently doing, where they have inspectors that come out and verify the damage. Unfortunately, with earthquakes, it's not as obvious as with other disasters, where with a flood, you might see, you know, the water obviously in your home. With earthquake, things like small cracks around door jambs or in the corners of windows, or doors or windows that now stick or don't close properly can be signs of structural damage that can be hidden behind the drywall and other things in your home. So I would say if you suspect that you have damage or you might have some damage, I would recommend registering with FEMA just to get the process started. And then they can do a virtual inspection process. And you can also, if you would like, you can also have an engineer come and do an engineering inspection. At the state, we had a question about how people could find contractors come out and fix their home. Unfortunately, the state, we can't recommend contractors. We can't provide that type of information, but sometimes local building offices, and I think maybe our local representatives might be able to point you more in the right direction, but sometimes they have not recommendations, but just listings of locals or local business listings of people that you could contact to do that.
Okay, thank you. Jana, stay right there too. And thank you, Victor, as well. And that question you referred to came from Drew. He asked another question. I think you may have answered these on the chat window, but just for this live session, we want to go ahead and answer this one as well. Drew says that they sent a damage assessment, but have not heard anything back from anyone. So who would they expect to hear back from, or should somebody expect to hear back?
So if you submitted the initial damage assessment that was done before FEMA arrived, that was just to gather information to submit for a request for FEMA to come in. Because those things contain personal information and they were self-reported, that's not information that FEMA uses to contact residents. The state doesn't share that information. The local jurisdictions don't share that information with FEMA. So if you only submitted initial damage reports before FEMA arrived, you will need to register with FEMA. That initial damage assessment with your local community was not a registration for assistance. It was just to provide damage estimates. And then if you've had your virtual inspection from FEMA or from the SBA, if you've applied with them, you should receive, I'm not sure if it's coming just through email or through the mail, but you will receive a letter telling you whether you were awarded or not and how much that award would be for. SBA provides loans and FEMA provides the grant funding for things that you qualify for, but they don't then do the actual work of repairing your home. So once you receive the funding, as a resident, you'll need to find a contractor or someone that can come in and do those repairs for you.
Okay, thank you, Jana. All right, another question coming in from our viewers. This one is from Zach. And he asks, what is the percentage, I think he means the chance of having another big one happen. And I'm going to attempt to answer this myself. We also have John Crofts, our Division of Emergency Management Earthquake Program Manager, handling our questions and answers on the chat window there and providing the questions for me here. And maybe he can type in an answer as well. But A few years ago, there was a study conducted that determined that we have a 50% chance of having a earthquake 6.5 magnitude or greater within the next 50 years. So that's according to the seismologist, the U of U Seismograph Center, Utah Seismic Safety Commission. I think all contributed to that study and that research that determined have a 50% chance within the next 50 years of having a 6.5 magnitude earthquake or bigger. So I think that Zach may answer your question there. And John, if you have something to add to that, feel free to add that in there. Mike asks, is there any cost to do the inspection for the damages? So if you register, let's see, maybe Victor or Jen, if you want to answer this one as well. After someone registers, is there a cost to have an inspection done? Or maybe they're talking about having an inspection done before they register. I'm not exactly sure, but are there costs to having an inspection done after they register?
I am trying to start get on the screen, but I can. Okay, let's see. Okay, now. Okay, can you ask that question again, please?
Yeah, are there any costs for someone to have an inspection to assess the damages? And I guess let's address this from the perspective of if they've already when they register for the program through FEMA, is there a cost for inspection?
Okay, so no, there isn't a cost. I mean, applicants, all they have to do is just register with FEMA, and the system will automatically determine if there is going to be an inspection, and if this inspection is going to be performed, inspector will contact applicants on the phone. It's a virtual phone call. Due to the fact that we have COVID, we can't inspect, physically in the homes, and there's no cost for that.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions coming in, but I'm just going to ask a few questions myself, and this could be, again, for anybody that maybe wants to answer this one, Victor or Jenna or anybody. So does this loan, this is I should say, I'm sorry, the FEMA Individual Assistance Disaster Program is a grant. Essentially, this money does not need to be paid back. Is that correct? Is there any expectation for anybody that gets this disaster assistance that has to pay it back to FEMA?
That is correct. It is a grant that applicants may receive to repair their homes or to pay for a rental property if they needed it, in case they needed financial assistance for a rental property. FEMA may provide assistance for rent, also for home repairs. So if they need assistance to repair their home, they might be able to receive a grant to repair their homes. Also for personal property too.
Okay.
Wade, this is Jana.
Yeah, go ahead, Jana.
I just saw another comment on there as well. And just, yeah, the FEMA is a grant and then SBA is a low interest loan. But one of the questions on here that maybe Victor can answer as well, that Kelly Whipple asked, they had registered with FEMA and documented their damage, but they haven't heard anything. They were wondering when they should hear back. I don't know if Victor knows of the processing times or if there's a certain window that people should expect to hear back from FEMA within.
Yeah, do you have that, Victor?
Okay, so yeah, once the applicant registers, they should be receiving a letter from FEMA. FEMA contacts applicant through email if they created an account through disasterassistance.gov. If they did not create an account, then they will be receiving letters that will advise them on the procedures. So, or any determinations. So FEMA actually contacts applicant through mail and through email. If they are going to be inspected by an inspector, they will call them and do the inspection on the phone. Also, FEMA contacts them to review their application through the case workers. So it's different ways that FEMA actually contacts the applicants. My suggestion is that they go online. If they have registered and created an account online, that they should go and check their emails and also check their mail, because there might be some correspondence or some emails that they might be getting.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm going to just clarify one thing here, maybe before we go to another question. So the answer earlier, as far as the percentage of having the big one happen, Jenna has clarified in the chat window that the Utah Geological Survey says that there's a 50-year probability of a 43% chance for one or more magnitude 6.75 earthquakes and 57% chance for magnitude 6.0 or more. And this recent earthquake in Magna does not lessen that probability of having those earthquakes occur. So yes, we still live in earthquake country. Yes, there still is a need to be prepared for earthquakes, to mitigate for earthquakes, as Joan was talking about earlier, to look into earthquake insurance, to do all those things to try to lessen the impact and improve the recovery process if and when we experience another major earthquake. I have a question for, while we're waiting for more questions in the chat window, maybe a question to either Keith and Chad or both, and I might be putting you on the spot. I apologize, we didn't talk about this earlier, but I'm wondering if you have the numbers of those people, the number of people or homeowners that have registered already within your counties. I know that there's been some considerable registrations already, and that FEMA has already awarded some grants to help people to repair their damage. And Keith, Salt Lake County, do you happen to know, I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot, do you happen to know how many people in Salt Lake County have already registered and received assistance? Let's see, Keith, are you still there?
Hey, Wade,
go ahead.
I'll field that for Davis County.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know who's actually officially registered, how many of them went on and registered with FEMA. I want to say that we had about, off the top of my head, I would say somewhere between 25 and maybe 30 total who had reported damage between the 15 cities in our county. And those were all pushed to the state level for the initial declaration to go to the federal government to ask for FEMA assistance. So after that, when it was approved, I don't have the number of how many homeowners or business owners actually filed an application. So I apologize.
No, that's fine. Okay, that's good information though. So,
Wade?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so on the county's end, we had about 160 or so after the initial, and then last Friday I reported out to Unified Command that we had 460 individuals and businesses that had followed the FEMA process for a total of just a little under $1 million.
Okay, Keith, thank you, Keith from Salt Lake County again. So that's the number of people that have actually registered and received a grant already?
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay, that's very impressive. And I'm not sure if there's anyone else from FEMA, Victor or Joan, that might have any other information as far as the total numbers so far that we've been seeing as far as registrants. Or Jenna, maybe, do you have that information?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Victor.
Okay, so total registrations, we have 471. And we have approved $270,000 for individual and household program.
Okay.
And that's divided into the housing assistance and the other needs assistance. Okay, so basically we had disbursed that amount.
And Wade, my number from Salt Lake County included the SBA piece.
Okay, that also includes the SBA amounts. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. And that total dollar amount was just split among the approved applicants. So we've had 400 people apply, but not all of those have gone all the way through the process for approval yet. So that's not 200,000 divided between 400 people. It's 200,000 divided between the, last I checked, I believed we had somewhere around 60 approved applications, but I haven't checked today, so I'm not quite sure where that sits. If people want to know, we can look that up. So.
And again, the whole purpose of conducting this town hall is to help other people to get registered. So Jenna, why don't you go ahead and stay there for a second longer? We know that we've had some surveys and people submitted some damage assessments. How many more people do we think or hope might be eligible to register? What is the number that we could expect to still register before the end of the deadline?
So the initial damage assessments that we did as a state, we received around 1,200 responses to those damage assessments across multiple counties. So Salt Lake, Tooele, Davis, some from Utah County. And then after our damage assessment was reviewed with FEMA, we had, I believe it was around 500 to 700 that were considered significant enough damage to use for the declaration. So we would hope to see around that many registrations. Of course, some people may have initially thought they had more damage and then found out they didn't afterwards. As we're comparing the damage assessments to people registering, we can't compare in detail, but we've been doing just some zip code comparisons, and there were quite a few that registered that we didn't have on the preliminary damage assessments. So we know that there's some damage out there. It's just making sure we get the word out and that people know there's a deadline and that they need to apply with FEMA. Their damage assessment reports, the initial ones, weren't a registration for assistance. And so we don't want people thinking they've applied when they haven't, and making sure that they can get the assistance they need. So.
And again, there's no cost for this. So if anybody thinks that they may have damage, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and register. You know, they may not get anything, but it certainly doesn't hurt to register, correct?
Yes. And just some notes that if you apply for FEMA, they will refer you to SBA. SBA loans are part of that registration process. And so we see that a lot of people apply with FEMA, but then never continue the process of applying with SBA. So we just want to clarify that that is part of the process. Part of that is there are certain parts of FEMA assistance that you receive if you do not qualify for an SBA loan. And then SBA loans can help cover a lot of things that you wouldn't get under FEMA as well. Also a note that SBA loans, they are low interest. You can also use them to cover insurance deductibles. So FEMA will not cover insurance deductibles, but you can use, if you had earthquake insurance and you had a high deductible, that's one avenue you could do to help you cover that deductible to receive your insurance benefits, as SBA loans are available to use for those. Businesses can also apply for the SBA loans for physical damages as well as for economic injury damages too. And so we just want to make sure that everyone who can qualify knows they can. So.
Okay, and Jenna, this question may also be for you as well. I've got another question coming in from a viewer here. If you're qualified for a grant or loan through the CARES Act, which is for the COVID pandemic, are you precluded from one grant or loans for the registered earthquake disaster?
So FEMA and federal agencies don't duplicate benefits. So you're not precluded. The exception to that is if you received funding for a certain time period or a certain item, you can't receive duplicate funding for that. So just the fact that you've received some CARES Act funding, say you're a business and you received some funding through CARES Act, but then you were also impacted by the earthquake, receiving CARES Act funding alone doesn't disqualify you from receiving funding through the earthquake, but you can't receive the funding for the same thing that the CARES Act covered. So if you receive some CARES Act funding, but then you had some additional or different damages or losses due to the earthquake, then you could qualify for that specific earthquake assistance. That also covers the unemployment program as well, which is, I believe, why we didn't see a lot of applicants for that, was because most people who would have been qualified for unemployment due to the earthquake were already receiving unemployment for that time period under the CARES Act. FEMA provides assistance for things that aren't covered. That also includes like insurance. So if you have insurance and your insurance will cover that item, then that's not something that FEMA will cover because you're covered under your insurance. So just know that FEMA it doesn't disqualify you because you received other funding. You just can't receive funding for the same thing or for the same period of time.
Okay, thank you. We have a viewer joining us from Magna who asks, I live out in Magna, could I qualify for the FEMA disaster assistance? And so absolutely. So I don't know if you want to take that a little bit further, Jana. So he also asks, what are the signs of damage around your house?
Yeah, so Magna is, if you're a resident of Magna, you definitely can qualify. I recommend following those links or calling the numbers on the YouTube page for FEMA and SBA. Any resident of Salt Lake and Davis County would be eligible to request this assistance. And the signs of damage, we discussed this a little bit earlier, but I'm happy to bring it up again. At the state, we're currently hoping to have some more prepared information for residents in future, since most of our Utah residents aren't used to looking for the signs of damage from earthquakes. So some of the things you might look for are cracks around your home. Those would be cracks in your foundation or on the corners of your windows or doors, cracks in your walls. It can be hard sometimes to remember if that damage was there before or not. So I would recommend taking pictures of any damage or cracks you might have now, and then you have a record for future if any more damage does occur, or if those cracks might seem small now, but maybe in the heat of summer and the cold of winter, they start expanding or changing, you can track that damage as well. Sticking doors and sticking windows can be a sign of some damage within your walls and your framing that might not be visible outside of the drywall. So that's something to look for as well. Those are some of the bigger things that we look for. I think when earthquakes, we often think that you're going to see a house that's completely crumbled to the ground or pancaked, and that means that it's really damaged. But unfortunately, fortunately, our homes, especially if you have a newer home, those homes are built to withstand, the shaking of the earthquake and to not collapse on you, but they can still receive some damage within the framework. And so it's important to have that checked out. Also, if you're in an unreinforced masonry home, those are homes that were built, pre-1970 and are brick or masonry without reinforcement. Looking into mitigating those and doing some retrofitting is a good idea, because those are the homes that are at risk of more severe damage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. And Joan, FEMA mitigation specialist, I wonder if you would want to come back on again. You mentioned earlier a place where people could go to talk to a mitigation specialist and to find damage. Joan, do you want to share that again with us?
Absolutely. Yes, we can talk to you individually. We have a dedicated email address to talk about issues. I spoke with a woman today about that. She had some cracks and other things that, her insurance inspector thought they looked cosmetic, but they may not be. So those things, like Jenna mentioned too, are important to look further at and get a licensed professional that can look further, because they a lot of times seem like general wear and tear or just cosmetic, but they may not be. So the dedicated email address is FEMA-R8-HM-HELP@FEMA.DHS.gov.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come in right now. And we just have just a little bit over 5 minutes left. What I think I might do at this point is just open it back up to all of our panelists to see if you have any final comments or remarks that may have come to mind as we've been having this discussion. And maybe we'll just go in reverse order this time. So we'll just kind of go down the list again. If any of our panelists have a final comment or thought that has come up throughout this discussion this evening. And if we do get any other questions coming in from our YouTube viewers, we'll try to throw those questions in again. But Joan, did you have anything else you want to add to wrap this up with?
No, just thank you for allowing us to present some information and, take advantage of of that SBA extra mitigation funding if you're able to increase the chances in the next earthquake. And you know, we talked about probability. There was a question on that. You know, that what it comes down to is there's a probability that at any given time in the next 50 years, we could have an earthquake that's 11 times stronger than what Magna was. So please take mitigation measures now.
Absolutely. Again, good advice from Joan there. All right, Elizabeth again, the Public Information Officer from the Small Business Administration. Anything you want to wrap up with?
Yes. Well, I would like to remind people that there are no costs to apply for SBA. And if they decide not to take the loan, they have no obligation. They can take less money than it is offered or approved. So it's a really good option from the federal government that they take this loan or apply. And maybe later they find out that they have more damage than what they thought they did. And also they can take the 20% for mitigation improvements to their home or business. So it is important for them to apply and to know that the deadline is September 8th.
Absolutely, yes. Let's not forget that deadline. Very important date. Thank you, Elizabeth. Victor, again, from FEMA Household Program Specialist.
Yes, so I encourage everyone to apply for FEMA assistance. If you see that you have any damages in your home, please feel free to call and register for FEMA. And also I wanted to add that if you have registered with FEMA and you haven't heard back from FEMA, you can call the helpline, which is 1-800-621-3362, 1-800-621-3362. And you can verify any information in regards to your application. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor, for your information. Thank you. All right, Chad Monroe, Emergency Manager from Davis County. Any final remarks?
You know, I think Davis County would just like to thank the residents for being vigilant in what they're doing and helping each other, and also thank the state and FEMA for reaching out and taking a key role in this to make sure that we get well taken care of. So go on and register, make sure you get what you need. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you very much, Chad, as well, for the work you're doing there. And Keith Bevin as well, Planning Section Chief for Salt Lake County Emergency Management.
Oh, no, I'd just like to, you know, let everybody know if they need anything at all, any support, any direction, just let us know. And again, you know, we apologize for any delays and anything that needed to be done, but we're here to support you in any way we can. And we know this is a difficult process, especially during our pandemic and COVID-19 response. So this has made it even harder for us to go through this event. So if anybody needs anything, again, reach out to Salt Lake County Emergency Management, and we'll do everything we can to support you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that offer for that support. Okay, finally, Jenna from the state Individual Assistance Officer, State Division of Emergency Management.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for participating. Also just want to encourage those that are watching, if you haven't registered, to please register. If you have and you haven't heard back, please be proactive and call that number for FEMA. While I wish we could help you more directly, those helplines through FEMA and SBA are the best way to get the most updated information on your application. And be sure to spread the word. Share the link to this video on your social media, share it with your neighbors. Make sure that everyone knows that they need to register, that the damage assessments when this first happened aren't your registration. And so we don't want people to miss out on funding they can receive. It has been mentioned several times that there aren't any negative repercussions for applying. Apply with FEMA and apply with SBA. They can help you see if you qualify and what damages you can receive assistance for. And also look into mitigating. There's a lot of ways to help mitigate around your home to reduce the risk of damages for future events. Also encourage you, if you're stressed out dealing with earthquake and COVID and everything that's going on, there is that Utah Strong Recovery Project to take advantage of. I think everyone's feeling it 6 months of, stress of earthquakes and COVID and everything else going on in the world. So I will post the numbers for that as well as for the disaster legal services on there as well. So if you're having issues with your insurance company, any landlord disputes due to the earthquake, you can take advantage of that as well. So I will put those in the chat now so that they're available.
Thank you very much, Jenna. I was going to say the same thing. Please feel free to share this. Maybe you don't live in Salt Lake or Davis counties. Maybe you didn't have any earthquake damage, but maybe you know someone who did. Maybe you have a family member or friend that had some damage that really could benefit from this great program. I also want to thank John Crofts for helping with our comments and questions on the YouTube channel. Also, Joe Doherty and Brian Stinson helping with all the technical aspects of this. And again, I want to thank our panelists and you, the viewers. My name is Wade Matthews. I'm the Be Ready Utah Manager and the Public Information Officer for the Division of Emergency Management. It's been my pleasure to be the host this evening. Hopefully you get some benefit from this and again, have a quick and successful recovery from the Magna earthquake, and as well as a healthy recovery through our pandemic. So thanks again for watching. Have a great evening. I'm going to pass it over again now we'll have our Spanish language town hall momentarily. So stay tuned for that.